It's time for the movie Ray, and tonight's victim is actor Michael Berryman that played in countless films such as the original Hills Have Eyes, countless others. Hello.
Hello there.
So what's going on with you before this upcoming ritual of Halloween?
Well, before Halloween, I'm trying to sell my house. Well, that is actually true, but what's going on? I'm going to be in Burbank, California, and this coming weekend for the Monsterpalooza show. It's a signing show. A movie lined up in November, waiting for finalization on that. But I did wrap a movie with a bunch of my buddies, Bill Moseley and Kane Hodder, and a couple other rebellious kind of guys. The movie's called Death House. It was actually originally written by Gunnar Hansen, who passed away recently, about the same time Wes Craven did. And I am one of the 5 evils in the...
Just to sum that up, that's basically like the Expendables with all these horror icons, isn't it?
That's what they're calling it. Yes, they are calling it that. Yes, they are.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it should be fun.
Now, for someone that's played in so many horror-based characters, what would you consider to portray your art toward the audiences? How would you consider that, or how would you portray that to show the audiences that has never seen you before?
You mean as a performance, as a role that is in a horror film?
Yes.
My personal thoughts on horror, that we can turn on the television and see horror 24/7. Even back in the days when there was only 6 channels and it was in black and white. And the images that I saw as a child and that people have seen throughout their life over many decades, it's very damaging to the human psyche. And I believe that humanity can rise above and out of and through such carnage and horrible choices and behaviors. And the only way to do that is to get all that crap out of your head, your heart, out of your spirit, out of your experience. And I believe that horror films can do that. I'm not talking about splatter films. I'm talking about horror films.
Yeah, and to this day and age, it's considered to be, so grotesque, so wrong for children and so forth. But yet, it's like the opposite. Some people try to get away from reality, but even though we live all the way around this type of horror every day on a daily basis.
Very true. That's very true. I was on the last Morton Downey Jr. show, and I believe Elvira was with me, and there's a couple other people on the panel. And the topic of discussion was, should actors that portray roles in horror films be arrested and prosecuted if people see those films and do copycats? That was a pretty interesting point of conversation.
Well, look at Scream. Remember when they were making masks since that came out?
Of course. The response to that is apparent. There are certain realms of, quote, entertainment that go beyond the pale. I just think they're grotesque and disgusting. The reason I continue, I've done what I've done for over 40 years, and I've done films from comedy to science fiction, the whole gambit, but we're talking about horror films. Well, I remember the scary, the classics. I used to watch Schiller Theater, Thriller. I got to meet Rod Serling, Twilight Zone creator. I remember watching Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, etc. There becomes a situation where you have empathy to the monster. And what that empathy is the question of where do you draw the line in your choices and your value system. Over many decades, other films came about that were just more, shocking and scaring. Well, I'll be very honest. When I saw The Exorcist, I actually, just in case, got on my knees and said my prayers, even though I had left Catholicism years ago for various reasons, just in case. I remember being, as a kid, watching The Mummy or something. I would always look under the bed before I, went to sleep. You've seen a very effective horror film if you leave a hall light on, where you sleep with one eye open. But carnage for carnage's sake, I consider it splatter porn. I'm not a big fan. Now, don't get me wrong. There are scenes in movies where heads explode and, certain things. But when it becomes just more and more and more of how gross can we make it, you lose something. It's called a story. This is the art of storytelling.
Yeah, which brings to the point that when it comes to these new age horror films from, let's say, from the 2000s all the way up to now, do you think they mainly adapted opposed to the older horror films way back when they even started, or do you think they've actually evolved a little bit better?
Well, there's a huge range. Some of the ones that get distributed by larger distribution companies, they're in it for the buck. It depends. I mean, there's a lot out there. I go to about 6 to 8 independent small film festivals every year, and I encourage your listeners to do the same. Because, number one, you'll never see them on a DVD, maybe at a film festival. You hardly ever see them on Amazon or in the theater or on cable. But some of them are people starting out, of course. They're incredible. When I'm doing a signing at a film festival, I'm kind of bummed out slightly because, well, I'm there for the fans and to be there for them. But I would like to have about 3 of me so I can see them all. And it would be wonderful, I felt, and I've mentioned this to people that put on these shows, that if you could take all of those independent shorts and put them on disc so we could all see them, it would be fantastic. But there's way too much litigation and contracts and protection, etc., to facilitate such. So I strongly recommend in your travels or in your local zip code, there's a film festival. Check it out. I mean, especially the shorts. Put something together in an 8 to 12 minute format, and it's very challenging. It's very, very rewarding. I think it's very artistic. I'm a big fan. It's just like, number one, I believe artists and writers and creators should be able to profit from their efforts and not be ripped off, number one. And number two, I encourage people to tell their own stories, and you should, even if it's local. If you don't get distribution or an Oscar, it's okay, because it's something humans have done forever. I mean, go back to when somebody started a fire, and there's other humans around the fire, they're sharing food, and what else do? They share stories. What happened today? Well, I was going to go, bring home what we're eating now, and this other critter, bigger and more dangerous, almost killed me, so I'm going to tell you a story. There you go.
As we go more and more throughout the years, and all more and more slew of horror films, slew of remakes of the horror films, reboots, and so forth, it seems like the support from other realms within the film industry is dwindling down because it's, of course, the money, the whole thing. But you think, are we losing support from the audience too?
No. I believe that the artists are. We're always, we have something now called GoFundMe. There are artists want their art out there. They want to express themselves, and they want to share it. Now, the ability to do that, a lot of it is controlled by the industry. If you're investing in a film and you don't really care about the story or the characters or what happens, like here's an example of a bad horror film. I'll name the name, The Hills Have Eyes remake. I'm sorry, the beginning was kind of intriguing, and it turned into chase, kill, and isn't this a clever way to dispatch of somebody? And when I see that type of storyline, I go, wow, they had a production meeting and a bunch of investors came together that don't know anything about art or the art of storytelling or film, and they just go, well, and in these 5 movies, for instance, we checked their revenues and they all made money, and here's the things that shocked and rocked people. Let's put those elements in our movie. So they kind of cut and paste together a story, and it has no cohesiveness at all. If you're going to do that, be honest. Do Sharknado. It's honest. It's fun, it's campy, it's silly, but it's honest, I thought that after in the Hills Have Eyes remake, the opening I thought was very intriguing, really kept my interest. The atomic test site, etc. Pretty darn cool. I'm sorry, but when the weekend warriors were coming out of the tunnel and the cave, there was that metal thing with the spikies. You could see it was CGI'd, and it just turned into chase kill and got really stupid. I actually walked out of the screen. I said, "This is just ridiculous." And then when you have way too much blood and splatter, and if you're going to do that, then do it campy. Do it with some humor, like I want to say Freak Show. There's a better example. Help me out.
Evil Dead.
Evil Dead, thank you. And, by the way, in Evil Dead, there's a Hills Have Eyes poster with me, Pluto, in the cabin on the wall. And when we did the Hills Have Eyes original in the trailer, what did we have a picture of after I supposedly tried to rape Susan Lanier, Brenda? Jaws. Those are directors getting their start and paying homage to one another. That's the realm you want to be in. But if you're just trying to shock and, your audience is 13 18-year-old pubescent adolescents. That's kind of a limited audience. And audiences are not dumb. I actually, years ago when I was at conventions, I would say, anybody that shows me a library card gets a free autographed picture. Well, hell, I lost like $300 in an hour. I said, well, I stopped saying that. I've met people at hotels that didn't know what was going on. I go, well, check it out. I go, oh, it's gory and icky and scary. I go, no, these are intelligent people that have families. They put their kids through school. They're actually, paying their mortgage and making sure they have health insurance. Are you kidding me? These are regular people. If you want to be around a bunch of jerks, go to a sports celebrity show. You'll see a lot of good people, men and women, doing great things, but the majority of them are just ego-frenzied, adore me kind of people. And celebrity status doesn't mean a damn thing to me. Met some famous people. When I was doing The Crow, I was having a wardrobe fitting, and I sat for an hour and had a lovely conversation with Paul Newman. I got involved with his charities, especially the Bogey Creek Hole in the Wall gang, General Schwarzkopf and Arnold Palmer and Paul Newman. They find families of children in need who have horrific birth defects above the neck, their face, their skull, and they give them the corrective surgery they need, and they pay for it all. You see, that is a good reason to be famous. But if you're a Kardashian, or I can name a whole bunch of names, and bling this and bling that, lifestyles of the rich and famous, who gives a damn? I don't. I judge a man or woman by the character of their choices and decisions. I mean, I see advertisements for the Jaguars. Nice cars. All these nice, wonderful, fancy cars, $60,000, $100,000. Who cares? You can only do legally 70 miles an hour. It's ego. It's called salesmanship.
And when you put them into other films, it becomes senseless because, okay, well, yeah, this person is a good actor and all these other films, but it's not really necessary to put him in every single film that may not cater to the role that he plays or he or she plays.
That's very true, and I know everyone in my family of horror stars, for instance, and sometimes we actually take a shitty role because we have bills to pay. We're real people. Imagine that. But golly gee whiz.
And some people refuse, or not really refuse, but some people kind of stay away from the big companies because it seems the further you go through these big companies, the worse things you're going to get into, especially if you're just now getting to these companies. It seems that they take advantage of them and just throw them wherever, and you basically didn't prepare or actually even look into it.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the key, looking into it. Number one, you have a script. Okay, here's a perfect example. A movie, I don't remember the title of it. I don't know if it ever got distributed. It was in Wisconsin, and cabin in the woods kind of thing, and the kids are there, and bad things happen, and then some people die, and then the remaining people they deal with it, and they kill the bad guy. Okay, that's pretty standard stuff. Well, I get this script, and I read it, and I'm the bad guy, and I'm supposed to be doing something very, very, very wrong to a young lady. And then they wanted me to say a few words, and the implications were like, really? We're not doing that. I said, now we can do it in a certain manner that is after the fact, that implies particular action or violence, but we're not going to go graphic. And then that way, when I step out of the way, there's the young lady, and she can have the camera on her and the close-up, and she can act. You want to see the act? No. So we had a discussion, and we said, well, yeah, that's a better way to go, Michael. So I said, by the way, I'm recording all of this. I have your permission, right? And they go, yeah, sure. All right, great. And agreement, I flew out to Wisconsin. I arrived. They asked me if I wanted to go visit the set, and I said, of course. I'm like, you guys are working nights. This is my travel day. I want to rest up tonight, and tomorrow we start working. Of course, I'd love to, say hi to everybody, and since we've changed a few scenes to make them better, and I show up, and then the director and producer go, okay, well, we're going to shoot that scene tonight. I go, really? And I go, could you clear everybody out of the room, please, and just me, you, the producer, and the writer, and you, the director, and the actress, please. Clear the room. We're all sitting there having a meeting, and I go, all right, here's what's going to happen. Number one, here's my Screen Actors Guild contract. This is my travel day. I'm here just as a courtesy to say hello to everybody. Let's make a good shoot. Number two, we're not going to do it the way you want to do it the original way, because here's my tape recorder. I'm pushing play. Now, the actress hears all of this and realizes that she's being used. She's being taken advantage of. Once they wrap and they're done and it's in the can, honey, they don't care about you anymore. They already got you. And she was flipping out. And she's like, whoa. And they go, well, you're being you're being difficult. I said, no, I'm not. I'm being honest to my word, and yours, by the way. And I could make a phone call right now and have you shut down. What would you like to do? Well, we're going to fly you home tomorrow. I says, great. Then you're in breach of contract, and I expect a full check, payment in full, as per my contract, before I get on the plane tomorrow morning. Have a nice night. Now, all of that happened. I get home. About 2 weeks later, one of the camera operators called me up and said, hey, I want to let you know that we wrapped. I go, how'd it go? And he goes, well, they got somebody to replace you. They took her out, wined her and dined her, and promised her the moon, and she complied, and they did it the old horrible way. I says, well, how does that make you feel? I didn't say that, but... And then what happened? He goes, they got what they wanted, and they I don't know if they stiffed her or didn't pay her or whatever, but my point is, if you don't draw a line, someone else will draw it for you. The best scary stuff is that which is unknown and implied. Like Hitchcock, a good movie, you don't see the monster until the very end. It's all about tension, you know? I mean, I see stuff on the internet, and I don't tweet. Homie don't tweet. And people can't even spell words right. I talk to teachers all the time. I do a lot of programs for schools, and they go, kids don't even have pen and paper. It's all on a device. They don't even know what a dictionary is. They do word check. That's pretty freaking sad.
Yeah, it is.
College, first thing I'd take was library science. How to go to a library, go to the stacks and know what a research library is. Reader's Guide to Periodical Literature, stuff like that. But I meet some of the most intelligent, educated people. A lot of them are teachers that go to horror conventions. It's a good thing.
It is a sad thing with everything that we've so much evolved with all this other stuff, and to the point where students of film a little bit getting away with what they were trying to focus in the first place. Focus is off and on, in terms of it's almost a battle, and it shouldn't be a battle of focus, and it should be something that you need to enlight.
It's true. Well, it's like, there's the music industry, rock and roll. I like folk music. A lot of the great bands from the '60s. I saw almost all of them. It's incredible. And the biggest key was good songwriting, good lyrics, good notes, good harmonies, good excellent proficiency with your instruments, that kind of stuff. And then in the '80s, let's blame it on disco. I would love to blame it on disco. Disco, I feel, was the beginning of the downfall of art. And I had a friend whose father was a very famous TV actor, and when disco was happening, there was a place in Westwood Village near UCLA, and it was called Dylan's. It was the hot spot with disco. And I went to my buddies up to the booth. He was the Rocket Man. He was going to college, to UCLA, and he put on a helmet and a jetpack, and sparklers would come out of the back, and they would cable him from one part of the ceiling to his booth, and all the rich, college, UCLA, USC, etc., go, hey, look at that stupid so-and-so. Well, yeah, you know what? He was paying his way through college. And I go, wow, they make fun of you. What do you think about that? And he goes, no problem. You wait. They're drinking and doing other things as the night progresses before 2 a.m. and they have to leave. Watch. I'll phase the disco beat, which is the same beat nonstop that never stops. And he would phase it faster and slower and control them. They didn't even know it. So where's the irony? I'd say the irony is not knowing who you are. The irony is not knowing how you can become your own individual person and make your own choices. And put that into many, many, many realms of where we are today as a society. There's a very famous, to the listeners, I highly, highly recommend. The most important book I ever read in college was from an art professor. It's called Understanding Media. The author is Marshall McLuhan, Canadian, a futurist thinker, philosopher, writer. Read it. As an example, in the book, it talks about what it was like back in the day when people used to write books. Pen and ink on parchment. Only the wealthy could have a book. Everybody else was uneducated. A guy by the name of Gutenberg made the printing press. It was huge. It was like the internet, but even more so. Now the peasants and those that are controlled can have knowledge. Before there was written word, there was spoken word, stories, and songs. They were called folk songs. So when we detach ourselves from our traditions and we despise that which has come before us, it puts us, I believe, in jeopardy as a society. And honestly, when I got to meet Rod Serling one night, we talked for about 45 minutes about these types of comments. and why his writing stands so strong today. I know people that can't stand Star Trek. Well, you know what? There are really a lot of good stories there. Go back to the writing. It all starts with an idea. So I recommend Blake Sheldon, Save the Cat. Want to learn how to write? Don't believe everything on the internet. And if you have to tweet, stop it. If you have that limited a vocabulary, maybe you're being controlled. Maybe you're being manipulated. Maybe you're being trained and conditioned to be not a very deep thinker. Maybe, just maybe, you're a lab experiment. Shock the monkey. Think about it.
That is actor Michael Berryman. You have anything else to say? Anything we want to plug in? Any websites? Any new projects you want to get out there? And go ahead and mention where you're heading in a couple weeks or months.
You betcha. I'm writing my autobiography. I hope to have it done by Christmas. I am going to be at Monsterpalooza September 16th through the 18th in Burbank, California. After that, I will be in October 13th to the 15th at the Idaho Horror Film Festival. And my very dear friend Andrew Getty, 10 years ago we made a movie called Storyteller, starring myself, Sean Patrick Flannery, Dina Myers, and Fred Kohler. The only film my dear friend made before he passed away. Brilliant. Death House, director Fred Harrison. It's written by, originally, concept by Gunnar Hansen. And, of course, in May, I'll be at the Texas Frightmare, May 5th through 7th, for state of Texas. That's about it. Please go to my Facebook page and please call your congressman or email him or tweet them, because it's hard to make phone calls anymore, about the native lands in the Dakotas where they're running that pipeline. There is an injunction at this point. But please check it out. Make a difference. So I wish you all the best. Tomorrow's the next best day of your life. Make a difference and be kind to one another.
Hi, I'm Susan Lanier, and you're listening to the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid. Tonight's victim is actress and musician Susan Lanier, that has done Wes Craven's new The Hills Have Eyes, have Red Rooms, and many television shows like Three's Company, and so forth and so forth. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Fantastic. Now, you also have a new, at least a current new single called Spooky Love from your music. Is that true? And where can we check it out currently?
Yeah, you can check it out on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, Apple Music, all of the above. It's called Spooky Love, and it was written in celebration of Halloween and all the Scream people out there. So anybody who likes horror are going to like this song. I have another one that's on YouTube called Watch What You Asked For that I did with Michael Berryman. I wrote the music, and Michael Berryman agreed to do asked to do the music video, and so it stars me and Michael Berryman and Brooke Lewis-Bellis. So it's a lot of fun. It's on YouTube. You can watch it anytime. It's very scary and horror-oriented.
Do you have other music, any other albums that others have yet to discover yet, or are you currently working on any new music?
Well, I have a kind of an older CD called Swamp Cabaret that is available on the platforms I just mentioned. But I have an EP I have yet to release, so that's going to be coming out pretty soon. And I'm in the studio a lot, so I'm trying to be very picky about what goes on that EP, or it might end up being a CD if I get enough music recorded.
Now, are you going to kind of go full blown with the music, or are you just kind of are you a casual musician that you just want to release what you feel like releasing, or do you plan on to actually showcase these live, or if you haven't already?
Well, I work around LA. I live in Los Angeles, and I do gigs in LA, and I appear locally in LA, and I have been doing that since the early 80s. And so I've played all the great clubs in town. There are not as many clubs or rooms as there were in the 80s. But locally, I'm kind of known in the music industry. I kind of just release what I want. At this age, I've been doing it for so many years. I just release what I want out there on in the cosmos,
Does it help you to create better though? Like when you've been performing live and so forth, does it kind of take pressure off you to where you can just create, just release when you feel like it, and you're not opponed by any audience or any other companies that might be interested?
Oh yeah, I love to be in the studio, and I love to decide when I want to record. So I guess my favorite part of the whole process, I guess my favorite part of the process is actually writing the tunes and having them and giving birth to them. It's kind of like giving birth, you get an idea and you sit down and it kind of pops out. Like Spooky Love, several months ago I had said, I think I'm going to write a Halloween tune this year. And I did that 2 years ago with a Christmas tune called Merry Christmas on My Own, which is also available on Spotify and all the other ones. And I just get an idea, and then when I sit down and the words start coming in, it takes usually several days for the whole thing to develop, and it's pretty exciting to feel the process. I was talking to a singer last night. I ran into her at a restaurant, and she plays around in town. And she said, God, I wish I wrote. I only sing. Not all singers can write. That's a whole different gift. And I feel like I'm a stronger writer than singer, even though I love to sing my own stuff. And I write it for myself to sing. I think my strong suit is actually the songs themselves.
And when you are, let's say, just a singer, and what do you need to get that extra boost? So as far as the writing process of any other songs that you want to get out there, was it a little bit more easier for you when you were performing, like you said before, in the clubs and so forth in the past, or is it a lot easier because now you have technology and plus you might have willing people who's like, yeah, let's just do this?
I'm not real sure about what that question is. Ask that question again. I mean, can you be more specific? I mean, I love both. I love performing. I'm going to do a Halloween gig, and I will be performing Spooky Love. And at this point, I just kind of accept the gigs that come my way. And I had quit performing during COVID. So I put my band on hold when COVID first hit. And that was kind of sad because I miss having an audience. And in an audience, when I have the audience, I'm very spontaneous with an audience too. I don't have the shows so planned that I know exactly what I'm going to do. I usually know the exact order of the songs I'm going to perform. But how I play with the audience and having the audience play with me, that's a whole different trip than being in the studio when it's just about creating the tune itself. Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, working in between acting and also being a musician, as far when it comes to the creating process, like creating music, can it also help build future character roles, making it's like a creative outlet for you as well?
Sure. I mean, Spooky Love, I love my character because, she's fallen for an evil kind of guy. And and she knows he's a bad boy. A lot of, that's a common story. So, are you a saint or are you the devil? The kiss of death that could end up fatal, So those are a couple of the lyrics. So, the songs that I write generally tell a story. Even you're not here anymore, I'm missing you, or you're still in, I have a song called Out of My Mind, and, I can't get you out of my mind. And, so I think every song, if it's delivered properly, it's the telling of the story that the audience is more addicted to than listening to the perfect notes of a singer that is, just singing the song and not really telling the story. There are a few of those out there, but not many. Most of the really great singers, even whether they wrote the song or not, like Whitney Houston, Celine Dion, Christina Aguilera, they tell a story even whether they wrote the song or not. Those are the successful musicians and singers that are out there that have success in the business. It's really hard to have success in the music business, any business, but particularly the music business.
Do you have a long-term plan as far as you being a musician, as far as like getting music out, or especially distributing the music itself, or do you consider yourself almost like an in-house type of band and still get the music out there by just staying in like basically locally?
Yeah, that's kind of it. The music business, I think, has always been a very young person's business, and I'm certainly not in that category. And I had my stint in Nashville in the 80s, and I left Nashville pretty quickly, even though I had quite a few doors open. Back in the 80s, it was pretty rough to play that game in Nashville. And the music business is really for, Chapel Rome, and I hope I said her name right. Anyway, younger people. So now I only create music out of the joy and the fun of doing it. If I take a gig, it's because I think it's going to be fun. If I write a song and take it into the studio, it's not for commercial purposes of success or making a ton of money on it. My goal is for the song to get enough attention that maybe it will be put into a film or a TV show, and that's pretty much the only way musicians can actually make a lot of money or make any kind of money these days, particularly if you're not a star that's touring like Taylor Swift. You hope for placement, and I'm over the age where I could even do, a world tour anyway. Right now, I mean, I'm a more mature actor and musician, and so it's really for fun, and I don't think in terms of commercial success. However, the new Spooky Love may have already found a film to be put in, so whatever a success I have from that will be fabulous. It'll be really fun.
Between working like in film as well as doing your music at the same time, do you feel like it can be a wise investment to even make deals to get your music featured, let's say, into just like only indie films for even better exposure, or do you have a plan for that?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer my music to be in, more major league projects, and Spooky Love may have found one of those. With Sound Exchange and all these streaming services, if the song gets some attention, it's pretty, I do make money with, I do make income with music, and that's really nice to do that. But it's not the goal. The goal is through the passion. I approach any kind of acting project or music project or writing. I'm also writing a book, and all of that is just through the sheer, it's all initiated through the sheer joy of the creative process. And then if it becomes successful, like The Hills Have Eyes did, then that's just gravy. You never know what movie you're doing that might hit or become a flop. You never know that. And I still get great auditions. I just auditioned for Matlock. I didn't get it, but it's very competitive out there right now, and even the film business is not as busy as it was even before COVID.
Your experience in television, which you have a quite extensive catalog of that, should an artist wait for that right time to audition for better roles and let's say an actual genre is being the trend at the time, like that shows being more successful? Do you feel it could be actually harder to re-enter television as well?
Well, that's a great question. I particularly people that are just starting out, I usually advise do it all. Do everything that comes your way. Do everything that's offered, because even if you do a low budget movie, you may end up with some really great footage to go on your reel. And a lot of the television and film casting these days is based on what a director or a producer can see on film. So the more that you're on film, and the more professional or semi-professional projects you can show yourself, as long as they look professional and not homemade, is valuable, because you don't know if somebody will see that footage and go, oh yeah, that's the person for my project, or my TV show even. A lot of people, the reels now are incredibly important. I teach acting, and I have younger students, and I teach on Zoom if anybody's interested, and I'm very affordable. And it's a film technique class, and I teach about how to audition and how to put yourself on tape and all the things that are required to actually enter into to get into the game at all, and how to do it as expected by the casting people or the producers and directors, so and agents and managers. So it's not as easy as it looks. A lot of people are at home and they look at these shows and they think, oh, that looks like a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, and it takes a long time, and you've got to have talent and know what you're doing. And now that we're self-taping, we used to just drive across town and go in the room and audition and stand there with a piece of paper in your hand and do the lines. It was much easier then, because now you have to be a camera person, and they have different criteria of how they want the tape to be presented, and so there's a lot more to it than just driving across town and auditioning for something. And I think also today more than ever, an artist is really responsible for actually getting themselves out there and creating content themselves. You can't just sit back and wait for somebody to call. If you're trying to get a manager or an agent and you don't have one already, they're going to want to see footage. So you got to get that some way or another.
And between television and film, it can also be challenging to adjust creating a character, like when doing a film, then having to, let's say you had to go do a television show like a month later or 2 months later. Is it hard to bounce from creating one character to a different type of film and then another different type of television, two different realms?
Well, not for me. That is not a challenge for me, because my imagination is wild, and I can jump from character to character. But I think a lot of the reason for that was my early training as an actress in New York, and even in high school, because I starred in all the plays in my high school, and I would go from a Russian character to Chekhov, from Chekhov to having to use a German accent and a French accent and a British accent, and jumping from character to character when I was younger. And my grades were dependent on my performances sometimes, and then going to New York and working in the New York theater. You go from play to play, and sometimes if you're on tour, you do the character every single night. And I find jumping from character to character not at all challenging. I love to be different characters. This year I did, last year, I guess, I did Black Mass, and I play a German mother, and they wanted, of a college girl, and they wanted a slight German accent. Well, I've worked a lot with the German accent, and I did that easily. And then the next project I did, The Boatyard, I'm playing a serial killer that is, crusty and horrible and unkept, and I'm neat, and a German mom in one, and no, I love the variety of characters that I get to play.
Do you feel character is built stronger performing in television than creating something entirely new? Is this like really a better way of like patternize your characterization later on in other films?
Well, I love film because there's much more freedom in filmmaking, in actual movies, for the ones that I do, even the ones that I've done that are more mainstream. TV has a formula, television has a formula, and there are certain criterias and rules, and they're very structured. It's not as loose as creating a character on film, where you can do more improvisation. I love to do improvisation for film and see where the scene takes you, and so it's I think the creative process is more prevalent in film than in television. In television, there's a formula, and you're kind of expected to act within that formula.
And which areas do you actually prefer? Let's say if it's an independent type circuit, is it really better for artists to really kind of, or at least out of the country, as far as regional wise, in comparison to within the States or something? Because they're very rapid, and it's always different marketing. Do you feel that can heavily affect that artist too, if they decide to, let's say, go out of those bounds?
Well, I don't remember, I don't think I have actually filmed out of internationally. Most of my work has been in Los Angeles or New York. I think I did I've done a few things in Texas and stuff, but I personally have not gotten to work in some of the other countries, so I hope that answers that question.
Well, if, let's say, a television or a film, let's say they flop commercially, or let's say just bomb completely, do you consider your participation an establishment or actually a success for later on for future roles, as you progress in your career, not just fixating on
if something flops, it doesn't, as long as I have a great manager like I have, Eileen O'Farrell, and really good agents like ATB and Farrell Talent. As long as they are still submitting me for work, everybody has been in a flop. There's nobody, that hasn't been in a flop or two, unless you're maybe Meryl Streep. And I don't get to audition really for her parts anyway. So the roles that I am up for wouldn't influence a TV show one way or the other. I mean, I'm not going to go do pornography or anything that's too terribly graphic, because because that's really stupid if you want a longevity, if you want longevity in the business. So I'm fairly picky about what I choose to go act in, and certainly with my future in TV or bigger budget films, with that in mind, I try to pick and choose stuff that won't end up being a total embarrassment,
Was other films, let's say, for example, The Hills Have Eyes, like as far as impression-wise, regardless within that time era, did that ever affect you or reflect against you, despite whether if it was commercial or not commercial successful in future roles? Did they ever look upon you as like, well, you were in this, but we'll take a chance on you anyway?
I feel maybe it did. My agent at the time did not want me to do The Hills Have Eyes, because I came to LA as a comedy actress, and I did tons and tons and tons of comedy. I was John Travolta's girlfriend on Welcome Back, Kotter. I was I did the pilot for the Three's Company. I did Phyllis, Alice, all these shows, as well as dramas. But my strong suit still is, by the way, comedy. In my music shows, they're more cabaret based in terms of delivering comedy between songs. I've always preferred to do comedy rather than drama. But when The Hills Have Eyes, Wes Craven offered me that part, I looked at it as an opportunity to star in a movie. It was established up front, starring Susan Lanier, and I wanted a film that said that. I'd done a lot of TV, a lot of it, and I was frustrated and wanted to bridge the gap to major films. I almost got into Carrie, and I was rejected there right at the end. But I had been auditioning for some pretty big mainstream movies, and I had hoped that The Hills Have Eyes would open that door. What it did do, though, I mean, you never know what choices you're going to make, whether it's going to be a good choice or a bad choice. And I don't think there are any bad choices, because at the time I had a son, and I met my future husband after I shot The Hills Have Eyes, because he had seen The Hills Have Eyes, and he was a fan of mine, and I was a fan of his, Delaney Bramlett, and he had seen that movie the night before I met him, and so I had a long-term 30-year relationship with the man I was in love with, because they'd seen The Hills Have Eyes. Would I rather have had a huge, bigger career? Maybe. I don't know. No, because I got to be with the man I loved, who opened my world to music. I'd been doing music before I met him, but he opened up my world to music, and that was life-changing for me, and he was life-changing for me. I was deeply in love with this man for 30 years. So that, to me, is more valuable than doing a movie and it's over, and you might have a whole lot of money, but I don't know. Are you that happy? I guess. I don't know. I don't know the other side of the crystal ball. I just know the side of the crystal ball I got.
And having to go in a preferred genre, like you said, in comedy, and sometimes it can be incredibly difficult, but yet it became more fluent for you. Let's say you were getting more and more horror roles. Did that affect you heavily as well, that you weren't doing as much comedy, that this was, and plus the money was probably a little bit better, even though you couldn't get to that as often compared to the other genres?
Well, I had a pretty fluent career until I hit my mid-30s. And to be honest with you, most females that are working, and I have a ton of friends. I had dinner last night with Tracy Swope Avildsen, who was married to John Avildsen, the director of Rocky, as well as many other movies. And we're in the same kind of age category. We were talking last night at dinner. After your mid-30s, your career is going to slow down one way or the other. And for most actors in Hollywood, and there are, of course, exceptions, like the late Diane Keaton, who I loved her work, and Meryl Streep. There are a few that can keep it all going, but things slow down anyway for everybody. If you're no longer the beautiful ingenue, and everybody changes, and so I'm appreciative of having been so busy when I was younger, and not a lot of people get that 15 minutes. I figure Andy Warhol was really right. Everybody gets 15 minutes. Today, I don't think a lot of people are going to even get that, because if you're an influencer, you're probably going to have even less than 15 minutes,
Would you say, like, actresses today who are always presented in horror films and becoming the scream queens, I mean, what advice would you give to these lady actresses today that are doing horror films, that are becoming almost marketable in these kind of films in comparison to the storytelling of the aspect of things? Do you feel like it's also still harder for them to still get that recognizable niche as you're progressing your career?
Well, I don't advise it. I don't advise anyone to just only limit their career to one genre. I never intended to be a scream queen. It sort of ended up that way later, but not earlier. In the 80s, I did refocus in the late 80s, I refocused my career choices to music. And then I raised my son, so I took a deliberate break from being on the road acting. And then once he was grown, I sort of eased back into the acting, sort of on purpose. And the roles weren't as fabulous as they had been when I was younger. I think that's pretty common among my friends who are still acting in my age category. I I still do comedy. I did a pilot with Casper Van Diem where I play a very funny older woman, Ida, who loves to go to the strip bars, and she's very funny. And that pilot might be picked up, and if so, I would be a regular on that. And I love that over the top kind of crazy funny character. So I don't advise young actors to limit their choices of projects unless they only choose to be known in the horror genre. I would never make that choice, and I would never encourage a young actress just because she's doing horror movie after horror movie after horror movie to do that. It would be safer for me to do it because I'm older and, I kind of don't have, I'm not trying to develop a career at this age. I just appreciate acting in what I get offered now. But as a young actress, no, I think it's a kiss of death.
Oh, go ahead and plug in any websites or anything that you further want to promote, and also let us know where else can we check out this Spooky Love.
Well, like I said, Spooky Love, I would love for everybody to check out that song. And it's on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. You can go to my Facebook page, Susan Lanier. I'm also known in the music world as Suze Lanier Bramlett. I go by both names, so don't get confused if you see Suze. Everybody calls me Suze, and I started my music career as Suze to separate it from the acting. And so I'm both people. And I'm on Instagram, TikTok, not so much, but going to start doing that more. All of the, Twitter, I'm on all of them. So, I mean, X, I guess you call it now. Just put in my name and it'll pop up, including my music videos. So you should have no problem finding me, and I appreciate any kind of listening to my music and whatever.
There you have it, everybody. That is actress and musician Susan Lanier.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. And thank you for having me on the show. It's been a real pleasure. It's been fun.
I'm Bruce Carson, and this is the Movie Raid Show.
It's time for the Movie Raid. Tonight's victim is stuntman, stunt coordinator, writer, and amongst many others, Bruce Carson, that has done many films such as The Nightmare on Elm Street, has done dozens and dozens of other films. Hello.
Hi, Mike, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, are we working? Yeah, you are also working on some new projects, writing as well as producing. Can you describe a little bit of that? I mean, is that still in the works, or can we check it out anytime soon?
Well, there's two main things I'm working on now. One of them I've been working on quite a while, and it's probably in the distant future because there's a lot of legal issues tied to it, and that's the sequel to the movie I did many years ago. I wrote and created Universal Studios Florida called The Night Brings Charlie. I have written a script called The Night Brings Charlie Back, and that I am working on, and that's going to be in the works for a while. There's a lot of legal issues going on there. And I have another movie that just, I think, went up on IMDb. I'm working with some good people with. And it's another thing I wrote called Dreadwood. It's a what I would call a sci-fi western, and it's a great story, and we've got some good people involved in that. And that's going to hit the ground, I think, a lot earlier than The Night Brings Charlie Back will. So that's where I'm at right now. Those are kind of my two bucket list projects.
Well, it's very cool. Now, you primarily have been working purely within stunt work, but you also had hands-on work within the sets themselves. But working on various stunts especially from the time that you worked up until the recent times, does the pay become a higher risk more on the safety involved as opposed to less safety than the past projects?
Oh, wow. It's kind of funny. I've been doing stunts. I started doing stunts. I did live Wild West shows. I think I started around 1979, maybe 80. I did a lot of Wild West shows. I did them in Las Vegas. I did them at Big Sky Ranch. I did them at Calamigos Ranch in Malibu for years. Had a lot of fun doing that. We never had safety issues, Safety has always been number one on set with me. I've done a lot of films I've coordinated and stuff, and to date, I have not seriously hurt anyone. So I'm pretty proud of that. But, safety is always an issue with this, and you probably brought that up because a lot of things in the news nowadays, there's been a lot of safety issues on set, and, sadly, when you look at those films and you look at what happened, the writing was on the wall. And we saw the safety issues, we saw the problems, and we just let them get out of hand and something horrible happens. But, safety, I've always been a safe stunt coordinator. I always have, and I've always worked with good coordinators, and I've never been seriously hurt. I ruptured my spleen, and what did I rupture my spleen on? I ruptured my spleen on The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. Oh, and I also broke a finger, or I dislocated a finger on that movie. But other than that, my movie I did at Universal Studios Florida that I wrote, The Night Brings Charlie, I busted 2 ribs too doing a jerk line. But that's kind of the extent of the injuries I've had, in 40 years of doing this stuff.
Do you feel today's filmmaking that the use of stunt people can actually often be treated domestically than a part of the actual film itself as far as the staff, as far as employees go?
That's a tough one. Can you phrase that a little different for me?
Like domestically being treated like lesser than what they're supposed to be treated as opposed to being a full frontal, like treated as a, let's say, supporting actor or the head grip or anything like that and related.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind when you bring that up is, we've never been nominated for Academy Awards. We have done a multitude of stunts and things on camera that people talk about, quite often, yet never getting any recognition for it. I can tell you a quick story. Back years ago, I was nominated for a Stuntman of the Year award for some work I did on Nightmare on Elm Street. I didn't win, but I was nominated. And that was back, I think, in 1984 I was nominated. And they didn't, what's his name? Lee, $6 Million Man. Help me out here. Oh, God. He was the one behind it because he was a stuntman, when he started. And he wanted to do these awards. He wanted to, give the stuntman a spotlight for once. And the whole industry pretty much was against it. They didn't want, especially the actors, they didn't want us to get any recognition. They didn't want us to, steal their thunder, that wasn't that actor that jumped off that building into that moving car. They don't want people to know that. They want them to think that it's them. And we never addressed that before, ever got into that scenario before. It wasn't until, those first stunt awards that we really realized that they don't like us, talking about being stunt people. They don't like us talking about being the one that actually did that, and they didn't. So, yeah, we suffer for recognition. I never really cared about it, to be honest with you, because I was out there doing the work for the money and I enjoyed what I did. But I think in all fairness, stunt people are not treated with the degree of respect they probably should be.
And in your time when you were working within this industry, there weren't a lot of groups of stunt people and organizations at the time either, and let alone like certain kind of union or companies or so forth. Like, how does that really affect you between then and now, or do you think that's more affected to those that are stunting now because everything's more efficient and this and that? But you think that it's more tightly based for them than actually giving them the quality what they deserve to have?
Wow, that whole subject right there is a very, very deep subject. It's, you know, stunt people, when I started, there was very, very few stunt people in the industry. There really was. I think we touched on this earlier. I believe there was probably 100, 150 maybe. This is around 1979, back on the East Coast, and maybe that amount on the West Coast that were working stunt people. It wasn't a big family at that point. Now there's thousands. I mean, it's just full of people. And, you know, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'll probably catch hell for this, but a lot of them I don't think are qualified, you know, to do the certain things. You know, it's like there's been some accidents on set that link directly back to inexperience, people doing high falls and things like that, and it is dangerous. And I don't know if I'm giving a good answer to your question, but yeah, it has changed from when I got in. The industry is now saturated with people that call themselves stunt people, and maybe they're good at something. But in my day, I was good at several things. I was a great motorcycle guy and a fight guy and a high guy, you know, of doing things on height. But I was a utility guy. I could do pretty much everything. You know, if another stunt guy left and they said, "Hey, can you do that?" Yeah, I can do that. You know, sure I can. Let's do it. But nowadays, there's some very good stunt people out there. Don't get me wrong, and I think they're really good at what they do. But there's a lot of stunt guys in the business now, and we also touched on this. You know, I get people all the time that come up to me and go, "Hey, I want to be a stunt man," and I just kind of laugh and put my head down and go, "We need to talk, son." You know, it's I don't know if you really know what you're getting yourself into.
Especially when today's stunting and everything else that's going on, do you think in this profession, an artist should actually take more than they give to show that what they have when it comes, what it takes? Do you think they should give than taking, especially now when we have everything going on, as opposed to when you started in the industry, it was more about giving than taking?
Yeah, I started out years ago. You know, I had a passion for the business, and I was willing to do, you know, whatever needed to be done to get in. You know, I knew it was going to be an uphill climb. I knew I had no one family-wise. I wasn't a second or a third generation stunt guy. I was a nobody, and that's about the best way to put it. I was a nobody, working on being a somebody. And thank God, you know, I had a likable personality. I had a lot of skills. I was a very high-level martial artist. I raced motorcycles. I raced cars. I did a lot of physical sports. I had a 40-something inch vertical jump. I had a lot of assets to work with as a stuntman. And, you know, by virtue of all of that, I was able to get into the industry, and people liked me. But nowadays, it's a whole different ball game nowadays. It really is. It's, as I said, the industry is oversaturated with people. And I'm going to go out on another limb, and this might shock a lot of people, but I totally believe it's true. I think of all of the active stunt people that are in the industry, and as I said, there's a lot of them, I'll bet you 2% of them, 2% probably make a living at being a stuntman with no further, or, you know, no other income. Just a full-time stuntman going from job to job and making a living. If it's not 2%, it's very close to that. It's very, very low. And I think that sums up the business, you know, in today's world. In my day, in the beginning, I think much more a much higher percentage of people actually made a living. And now you've got, thousands of people fighting over the same job. So I don't think, and that's the conversation I have with these young people that come up to me and go, hey, I want to be a stuntman. I'm like, we need to talk. There's a lot to talk about. It's not just, I can't wave a magic wand and put you in the industry. And even if I could, it's probably not going to be what you think it is.
What would you consider an actual proving ground in this profession? The type of genre to work in, or the amount of the mental and the physical aspect of it? Is it between those two, or is it the kind of genre that you should just start out in and just do it that way? Or is there something much more to that than just simply doing one or the other?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer for it. I would probably go slightly off the rails from your question and say, unless you have a huge passion to be a stuntman, you're going to have to dig pretty deep to be one nowadays. And I don't know if the movie business nowadays is going to fulfill what you're really looking for. You know what I'm saying? It's if you're a second or third generation stuntman, you probably are going to get that. If you're a guy like me walking into the business today, your chances are probably going to be like 1 in 1,000 of actually having a career in the business. You touched earlier about the groups, and that's a major player in the game nowadays. If you're not in a group, I call it a sub-union, but they call it groups. If you're not in one of the groups, you're just maybe you just love the industry and maybe you love working when you can. But if you're not in one of the groups, your chances of just being a full-time, successful, money-making stuntman are very, very slim, and everybody is trying to get into a group because that's where the money is. They'll send a guy out to talk to producers and to production people that's very, very well known, who started all of this. And I got this from Paul Knuckles. If you look him up on IMDb, Nux, we call him. Great stunt man. I mean, he did Miami Vice. He was the stunt coordinator for Miami Vice and for Chips from the very beginning to the end. And Paul summed it up pretty well, when he said Hal Needham was the guy that went out and started soliciting movies, for his group. He started, Stunts Unlimited, and he would go out and land a movie. He's Hal Needham, and then he would only work his people. By and large, I mean, if you were a super, super good, whatever guy, you could walk a tight wire or something. They didn't have anybody in the group that could do that. They would hire you because they had to. But by and large, if you were not in the group, you just were not going to get hired. And now everybody started that. They're like, hey, that's a great system. If we can go out and send a big stunt guy out with a big resume and he can land a big movie and only work us and we make all the money, hey, that's a great idea. And now the industry is, saturated with that. There's probably, 15, 20 groups nowadays. There's Stuntmen's Association, Stunts Unlimited, International Stunt Association, Brand X, Black Stuntmen's Association, Midgets and Dwarf Stunts Association, Women's Stunt Association. They formed all of these groups, and they all try to get into those groups because that's where the work and that's where the money is. Far, far different than when I got in the business.
Now, going into the writing aspect as far as writing your own work, and have been writing your own work as far as film goes, for this to also give a good leverage for stunt men and women when it comes to doing something that's outside the stunt work of that, can that give a good leverage in the industry, or do you feel like this is mediocre, but the passion's there, but it won't give any kind of real profit or even credibility despite that, except for what you were already known for?
I'm not sure about are you saying that does that method work for other phases of the industry, or what are you saying exactly?
Having to work with, as far as the writing aspect and writing your own films and stuff, can that also give some good leverage, credibility to a stunt person outside basically their comfort zone, so to speak, and to further up their career?
You know, it's kind of funny with stunt people. When I got in the industry years ago, and this is going to sound off topic, but it's not. When I got in the industry many years ago, the only stunt school that was out there, or the only sort of authorized stunt school that was out there, was Kim Kahana. I don't know if you've ever heard of him or not. Tim's still alive. He's like 90-something years old and still jumping around like a rabbit. But he had the stunt school in Chatsworth, which is not far from where I'm sitting right now. And he taught stunts. And even Kim Kahana came under scrutiny for doing that. It's not getting outside of your industry is how this connected to your question. If you're not a full-fledged stunt man doing stunts, living for stunts, hanging with stunt guys, partying with stunt guys, blah, 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 you're not in your wheelhouse of how you're going to get into this industry. You got to get out there and make friends. You know the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. In the stunt industry, it's both. You got to know the right people to get in, but when you get on the set and you're going to do something, you better know how to do it. And they will make sure you do before they put you in that position. But if you're trying to get in that way, you know what I'm saying? I shot films. I grew up shooting film. I bought 16mm cameras. I bought Arri cameras. I came up shooting and learning the other aspects of the film. But as a stuntman, it really never helped me in any way in the industry. I can remember a couple of jobs where they were doing something action and the actual camera guy was afraid to get in there and shoot it. You know what I'm saying? He was being put in a compromised position he wasn't comfortable with. And they were like, how are we going to shoot this? And I was able to step up and say, I've been running cameras since I was, 18 years old. Give me the camera, I'll shoot it. Well, now the unions would probably take me out and tar and feather me for doing that. But back then I was able to do it. It did get me that, you know what I mean? I did get some extra work doing that and created maybe the position of stunt cameraman. I don't know. But in answer to your question, I'm really not sure anymore it has any bearing on anything. Not really.
Well, go ahead and plug in any websites or anything that you care to promote, or even advice that you care to share as well.
Oh, is stunt related or just Bruce Carson related?
Bruce Carson related, anything that you care to throw out there.
My business now that allows me to be a stunt man when I want to be instead of when I have to be. I own, with my wife Lori, we have Broadcast Video Warehouse and just cinemalenses.com and just cinemagear.com, and we sell cameras and lenses to all of the production people, all of the shooters, all the DPs, all the rental houses, and we have our finger in a lot of movies. So if you go to vidgear.com, like video gear, it links to all of those others, vidgear.com, and you can see what I do for a living when I'm not jumping off buildings.
Well, very cool, man. There you have it, everybody. That is stuntman Bruce Carson.
Well, thanks for having me on the show, Mike. I really appreciate it. And, we could get into a lot more stuff if we ever do another show. There's a lot going on with There's a lot going on with it, man. I could talk about a lot of stuff. But, hey, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Hey, this is Michael Bailey Smith, and you're listening to the Movie Rage Show.
It's time for the movie raid. Tonight's victim is Michael Bailey Smith, that has done many films such as the Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2 remakes, such as the Fantastic Four, A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, amongst many, many others. Hello.
How are you, sir? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Anytime. So we got anything going on? Anything that you want to share real quick, or are you just living the dream?
Always living the dream, that's for sure. Yeah, I just got engaged, which is awesome. Incredibly beautiful and talented and fantastically kind woman named Paige. She is definitely brightened my life. Extremely excited about that. We'll be getting married next year, or 2024. I have to get those numbers right. On the professional side, I just finished a rewrite on one of my screenplays, which is quite good reviews from my producer, and yeah, that's going to go into production at the end of this year. So
you've done so many different types of characters, and working with a wide range of characters, and some can be very challenging. Your role between the Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2 remake, from performing a remake character and then transverse into another character in another remake type of character. Having to do a remake character, do you feel you have to almost reinvent and having to build off that character from one of the sequel to the other?
No, actually, for Hills of Eyes 1, the director, Alex Aja, asked first if I had watched the original. I said no, and he says, good, don't watch it. I want you to bring in your own stuff. This is your character, so make him the most badass character possible. And so that's what I did. At least I tried to, and I guess I did pretty well, because I won the Fangoria Chainsaw Award for best fight scene between me and the character Doug. It was cool. And then the second one, they wanted someone who was big and could play badass and be the head of all the mutants, and that was Papa Hades, and that's what I did. So it was fun. That was fun as well. You know, anytime you get a role, anytime you get asked to do another role, you're just always blessed. It's so hard in this business to be successful, to get anything, to win anything, or to capture a role, and when you do, it's just a blessing.
Do you feel that past roles that may not have given a chance of opportunity as far as the motivation goes, but to create your own opportunity, do you feel this is what makes a stronger character structure-wise in your future films or future roles?
The way it's written on the page is one thing, but when the actor gets that role and works that role, he will find new and interesting things to that and bring really great things to the set on the day of filming. And that's what the director wants, right? When he hires someone, he wants to make the film better. I always draw the analogy to being drafted. I got fortunate enough to spend a little time with the Dallas Cowboys in 1985. That's probably before you were born. But in 1985, I went as a free agent to the Dallas Cowboys, and I got blown my knee in camp. But the reason why I'm mentioning is that when they draft you or when they bring you as a free agent, they don't bring you there to make the team the same or worse. They bring you there to make the team better. They want to win a championship. Same thing when a director hires you to come onto the set. Yeah, say what's on the page, but they want you to bring your special sauce, personality, your creativeness. And so I think with any character that I've played, I've always tried to make it an interesting and special character and make it stand out. And I've been very fortunate in making that happen. A good example would be Charmed, right? So Charmed, I played 5 different characters, and each one I made totally different, so you could not tell it was the same actor. I did it either through the way of my voice, my physicality, the way I walked or handled myself, things like that. So there's a lot of different things you can do to make each character different, and that's your responsibility as an actor. I mean, listen, if you're a superstar, Jean-Claude Van Damme or Arnold Schwarzenegger or some of the superstars nowadays, Tom Cruise or whatever. I mean, Tom Cruise is a little different. He's a phenomenal actor. He can play Tom Cruise in, Mission Impossible to whatever. But then if he does something like the agent in that one Tropic Thunder, we played that crazy agent with the fat hands and the balding. I mean, that's a totally different character. But normally superstars just play themselves mostly in just different positions, scenarios. But for me, I'm more of a character actor, journeyman. I'm what they call a working actor. I go from gig to gig. And my responsibility is to be true to the material, true to the character, and bring my special sauce to kind of make that character special and different. I think part of being as an actor, if you're just playing the same thing all the time, it gets kind of boring. You want to do different things and to kind of explore that and explore the character. Push the envelope, as they say.
How much time would you actually put into the character that you're hired for between going to these gigs? Like, especially if there's a limited time. Sometimes you have to just do it within a couple of weeks or even a month. Even a month, it is not enough to get in the character. But how much time do you actually spend between film and in television? I know they're both different times, but how much would you spend for yourself to get in and out of that character?
You could even take that more granular. Look at soap operas. So I've done 3 or 4 soap operas, like Bold and the Beautiful and Days of Our Lives. Basically, you get the role, and in the next couple days, you're actually on the set. They give you no rehearsal time. You get one take, and that's it. It's like a machine. They shoot probably 30 pages in a day. It's just crazy how many pages they shoot in a day. And all these sets are already pre-set up, and they have this like trolley that just takes the camera, everybody lighting, all that together. And, you have to be ready. And there's no retakes. And then with television, you get a little bit more time. At sitcom, there are sitcoms where I've been hired in the morning and it started that afternoon. Like Drew Carey Show. I think it was back in the 2000s I did that sitcom. I got hired in the morning, and then that afternoon I showed up on the set. But that's for rehearsal. You have time for that. Normally, sitcoms, you get hired on a Monday, and you start the next day, and the live show is on Friday, so you're rehearsing throughout the week. Movies, a little bit different. You might get a week or two, sometimes more. Like bigger films, you'll get like a month out where you can really prepare for it, especially if you have to change your physicality. Either you want to be bigger, stronger. Like when I fought Jean-Claude Van Damme, I played a big role in a movie called In Hell with him, and I had about 2 months to train MMA, and so I did a lot of ground fighting, jiu-jitsu, and all those things like that. So, it depends. Physical role, if it's something that's more emotional, where I have to really prepare, normally you get enough time.
So everyone uses a different method, and sometimes people use the same method over and over for other roles, but having to deal with the emotional of the character that you're dealing with in and out, how does that really affect you trying to be in the character and then getting out of it, especially when you do have that limited time? How would you get in and out of that character without actually not losing that character in general?
Well, that's the part about being there's method actors, right, that basically live the character 24/7. If it's an accent, they'll stay in that accent. I know Hugh Laurie, when I did TV show House, he spoke with American accent the whole time, but he's from England, right? So I didn't even know that till after we got done. There's other actors that stay in character the whole time, and that's more method, where I'm a mixture of both, especially if I'm going to do something with prosthetic work. You cannot not be in character. It seems like almost can't walk around killing people and eating them. That would be tough, but keeping that emotional level. But it also too, it's very exhausting if you want to stay in that kind of state all the time. When you're doing a scene, it's normally the writer, you would try to get into the scene as late as possible and get out as early as possible and make it a heightened scene. And so as an actor, if you want to play that, it'd be impossible for you to stay in that heightened state the whole time. So you have to have it like simmering and ready to go, and then when you step on the set, you let it go. So that's kind of what you do. That's kind of what I do. I kind of stay in that kind of state. And then at the end of the day, get out of prosthetics and then go back to the hotel or whatever I need to do. But then when I'm back in prosthetics, if it's a prosthetic part, then I'll do that. If it's non-prosthetic part where I'm just being a straight actor, then pretty much the same thing. Once you get in the trailer, you start thinking about what you got to do, and you get the makeup, and then from there you get the wardrobe on, and then that whole process kind of prepares you for when you actually step on set. And if it's something really difficult emotionally, then as an actor, you have to prep yourself for that, right? There's techniques and things you can do to do that.
Characters come and go, and characters succeed, and some characters don't succeed grasping that audience. But if an artist's character does fail gaining the audience attention, should that artist use that to almost reinvent themselves or future characters, or should that be a motivation and just use the successful characters instead?
I don't know about that. I don't know if there's really a failure of an actor. That's not what happens. To me, it's not. If you're true to the character and true to the material, you're going to be successful. Now, with any movie or TV show or whatever that you make, there's a ton of different parts that go into making something successful. There's the directing, there's the lighting, there's the set design, there's promotion at the end of it, things, all writing, all that together. The actor just plays one, it's an important part, but just one small part in a big company or machine to get something, onto the screen, either on Netflix or something in the movie theater, right? Now, there are things that I've done that doesn't work too well, maybe an accent or something like that, or I remember on The Hills of Ice 2, I was going to do something, and then with my voice a little bit, and Wes Craven came up to me and says, I don't think that's going to work, so don't do it. So I did it. And normally a director will let you know, and that's kind of his responsibility too, right? He is the director. He's the guidepost to how this movie gets made. It's his vision, so you have to keep within what he says, his vision.
Is it better to plan what characters to perform in the future, or really only go for the roles that may cater or better suit that artist? Do you feel that way, or do you think that's a little bit obsolete of today's cinema?
I'm not a movie star, right? So yeah, I'm recognizable. I mean, Michael Bailey Smith, I'm on Google, and you can whatever, right? So all those things. Now, for me, as an actor, I had to audition probably for 90% of the things that I've gotten. I don't really have a lot of choice. There are some roles that I've turned down just because it was kind of against my moral standards that I didn't want to do. For the most part, most actors are going to take what they get, right? And they're pretty darn lucky to get those. Yeah, if you're an A-lister, they're going to pick and choose the characters in the movies that they want to do. A lot of reasons because they want to shape their career a certain way or a certain direction. For me, I was blessed to do a few horror films, but the majority of my work has been without prosthetic. And I've done, a lot of comedies. I've done a lot of dramas. My career's been very eclectic across my 30 years, from video games to commercials to TV shows to sitcoms, dramas, to actual movies, and all types of movies as well. And so an actor takes what he can get, right? And what he can audition for. Some movies that I read for that were big ones and some that weren't. Again, you take what you can get. Hey, beggars can't be choosers sometimes. You got to get what you can get. Right.
Would you say choices is pretty limited today when getting roles? Things keep growing faster, technology keeps going faster, but roles get either harder to get or more limited to their ability because someone else is doing this and this and this.
Yeah, I don't know about that. There's a lot more different avenues now for TV and things like that. There's shows being done on Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, all these different avenues, right? Before, when I started, there was the network and there was VHS, and then DVD. DVD is still around, but not as much as anymore, right? There's Blu-ray, and that's kind of fading away because everything now is on. Either now it's going to be streaming or it's in the theater. And now theaters are competing against streaming. That's why you see, like, when you go to theater, you can buy a full dinner and wine and all those things like that. And you need to compete, and the seating is a lot nicer because they want to kind of duplicate the home environment. I think things are actually, there's more opportunity for actors. Now, when it comes to the financial side of things, I know the actors are getting kind of screwed over to a certain extent. I guess they're not getting paid as well as they used to, like on some of the streaming series and things like that compared to stuff that's on the network. The network shows have always paid more. But yeah, I think that's the difference is that maybe, some of the pay on streaming services is not as great as compared to like networks and things like that. So, but other than that, I think there's a lot of opportunities. And plus, too, with technology nowadays, you wanted to make your own film, you can do it. You can grab a camera, there's lots of editing software, put a team together, and you can go for it, right?
When they have to go bounce and forth from one gig to another, like, does genre matter as well? Like, what's in the trend or the algorithm? Even if you're not, let's say, like you said, superstar status, but let's say you have to go straight back to genre films in the indie circuit, does that hinder or does that just further enhance of their abilities later in the upcoming films?
So what happens is that when you first start out, you do everything you can get, right? It could be student films for free. It could be whatever it is, your friends' films. It could be you're doing whatever you can to put your mug on a screen to get tape so you can show other people. And then after that, you'll start probably landing some TV shows and maybe a small movie, and then you kind of build your name, and then you start landing bigger roles. And that's kind of how my career went. I went, the same thing. I did a bunch of free stuff. In Los Angeles, I went to UCLA and USC and UCLA, the two big film schools, and did a lot of free stuff for them and got video on that, put together a demo reel and kind of worked from there. Then doing a lot of commercials as much as I could, a lot of TV, sitcoms. I did some low budget films. Every so often I'll get like a bigger budget film like My Favorite Martian or something like that I got to be on. And then your career progresses where you go from being like a featured, like a couple lines on something, to now you're a co-star on something, to now you're a guest star on TV shows. And now you went from being like a featured person on a film for a couple lines, or you're playing a bad guy, you're getting a fight scene, to where now you got a co-star or lead role, right? Where you have a character that runs through the course of the whole film. And that's kind of how your career goes. Now, as you're progressing, you start thinking about your future. And it's smart that you do that. You have to think, okay, where's my career going? Do I need to keep doing another horror film? Or do I need to keep doing another sitcom? Maybe I want to do something else. And that's why you see people that are series regulars on TV shows, they leave and they go and off and they do a movie or they do something else. And some of that, sometimes it works and other times it doesn't. And the same thing with guys that do movies. Guys and gals that do movies, the same thing. They'll do mostly the serious stuff, for me, action stuff, but also they'll do a comedy. Again, I'll draw the analogy to Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he did all these action films, and all of a sudden he did, the movie Twins, right, with Danny DeVito. And that showed like a lot of range with him being this kind of big, kind of gentle, goofy dude. That's what you got to kind of do. But again, like most actors, like a small percentage of actors are the ones that can make a choice or have a choice in the industry on what they can do. They get offers all the time. Most actors, they take what they can get, and they're lucky to get that. So I would say probably 95% of the actors out there are auditioning and just begging for something, to hoping to get something. There's that rare 5%, or the A-listers are the ones that don't have to do that.
Do you believe in there's such thing as financial stability within this, or is this always going to be either under, middle, or sometimes you get lucky and have that high break of financial stability?
Again, I was in the 7th percentile of all actors, not the top 10 percentile of actors making money in the business. So that means that 93% of the actors out there probably didn't make a lot. I read some study that most don't make anything. They're part of the union, they're actors, but they'll get like one gig a year, maybe a couple or something like that. And it's hard. So most of them have a day job, right? Yeah, I made enough to make a good living, and I have a pension from it. For my 30 years, I got a nice pension, which is kind of nice. I'm very blessed that way. Kind of smart in how I approach this. A lot of people think of this as like almost a pastime or just something fun to do. It's fun, but it's also serious business, and that's what it's about. And that's what you have to approach it as a business. It's not show friends, it's show business, and that's what it's all about. And it's cutthroat, and they will fire you in 2 seconds. And I've seen that happen. I was on this one sitcom, and we started rehearsing. This guy that was standing next to me, and I was guest starring on it, and he was a co-star. Next thing you know, another guy the next day showed up. The network and the producers didn't like what he looked like or didn't like what he was doing. They got rid of him. And that's how it is in the real world too, man. If you're not producing, they're going to cut you in 2 seconds. I don't know. I love it. I love that. It's like, I draw the analogy when I used to play football, and I lined up against some guy who said he was going to kill me when I was an offensive lineman. I was an offensive tackle, and when it was 4th and inches, I always told the quarterback and the coach, run it to my side. I like that pressure. So when they call action, same thing. I have to deliver, right? There's thousands upon thousands of dollars riding on me making sure I don't make a mistake or screw up a line, or it's an action piece or something like that where a big explosion's going off behind me. You can make sure that you execute it right. If you don't, then there's thousands of dollars wasted. Thousands upon thousands of dollars wasted.
Go ahead and plug in any websites or anything that you want to promote or even add advice.
Questions, you can always email me at mbs@michaelbaileysmith.com. I'm always on Facebook as well. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. That's it. And my only advice is, if you want to become an actor, if you want to get in this business, you can't do it halfway. You got to do it all the way. I know a lot of people that say, yeah, I want to do what you do. Well, then do it. And they just talk about it, but they don't do it. Really give yourself to it, to make it happen. It's like anything, right? It's like, I always draw the analogy of Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was this great basketball player. Well, he became that because every waking moment he was practicing. He was shooting thousands of shots before a game, after a game. It didn't matter. He was always practicing. And the same thing as an actor, you got to be in it. Really want to be successful, you got to be in it all the way. There's no halfway.
Well, there you have it, everybody. That is actor Michael Bailey Smith.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is Ezra Buzzington, actor that played in the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, and played in Ghost World and countless other TV shows as must films. Hello!
I've never heard of him. I have no idea what you're talking about. Ezekiel Bongwater? Is that who you said it was?
Well, that could be your new nickname or handle, if you want to be...
It's funny, I do get some mail from a local theater company here in town to Ezekiel Bongwater.
What they can do with film titles, they can do with your name.
Maybe I should change it, because I got my name from my grandfather's vaudeville name. It was his stage name. And so I got it from him when I had to change my name when I joined the Screen Actors Guild from my legal name, which no one knows. So from Ezra Buzzington to Ezekiel Bongwater seems like a good transition for me. It matches my brand. I have a very strange life. I have a very unusual life in Hollywood and Los Angeles and well, the world, I guess. So,
well, that's not so bad.
That's not here there.
Everyone takes up a modeling every once in a while, especially with their feet. Whatever.
As long as it pays. I'm totally down, and you don't show my face.
So that's the main rule. You never show my face.
Well, the reason is nobody wants to see it. See, that's the problem. It's not that I don't want to show it. It's that they don't want to see it. They're scared of it.
Dude, here you go. Superhero feet. There you go. Superhero feet modeling right there. That's for you.
You know what? I was told when I was a kid, by kid I mean I was in college, that by the people in the dance department at Ball State University, where I briefly attended, that my feet, it was summer and I just had sandals on and one of them, sort of little diva ballerina, saw my foot and said, "Ooh, monsieur, you have a perfect point." And I went, "I didn't even make a point. What are you talking about?" She goes, "No, your foot. It's a perfect point." So apparently, I am the envy of all ballet dancers everywhere, because I have the perfect point. Do you know what a perfect point is?
No, I do not. I'm sorry.
Well, then you need to go back to school and study dance. Because apparently in ballet, there's something called the point, where you just extend your leg and it goes pointy.
I went to the strip club. I went to the wrong bar, apparently.
I bet you I would give you dollars to donuts that any one of the women you asked who's working at a club, especially on the pole, would be able to tell you what a perfect point is. I pretty much guarantee you, because those mamas, they know how to dance. They know from their dance. They know Pilates. They know all the whole bit. Because I used to be a dancer too, but just not on the pole. Well,
all right, there'll be a video segment for next time, I promise.
Just see you as you're walking like a $5 or $10 bill. So, would you please discuss for me the various attributes of having a perfect point? Can you imagine?
I can imagine.
Ask the one who's dressed like a ballerina, though. She'll know.
You can dress like Black Swan, so that way you feel important. I mean, whatever. I can be the Nutcracker.
Didn't we talk about that just before we started recording?
We will have a raffle soon. We'll let you know.
Extra, $50 extra for the Nutcracker.
We'll have a raffle later. We'll let you know.
This conversation is spiraling into various depths that we
yes.
To,
So, what have you been doing lately? Have you been getting some more roles lately? Have you been touring the country, Comic-Con, and so forth?
I haven't been doing anything. This year, actually, has been very thin for a lot of people, and pretty much everybody I speak with in Los Angeles, for reasons unknown. Some known, some unknown. The business has changed a bit, and there's a lot of runaway production, and a lot of, unfortunately, commercial work is going non-union. So for all of my union brethren and sisterin, it's been a thinner year than usual, it seems. I suppose you might be able to find an actor who would counter that. But the majority I've spoken with, and this is including me, have commented on how the industry has changed to the point in 2018 that it's just a little bit tougher for everybody. But, everything is pendulumic. Sometimes it's riding really high, sometimes it's riding really low, and there's just no predicting it. The only rule of thumb is there really are no rules to making it in Hollywood. And you just have to ride it like the roller coaster it is, and sometimes throw your arms up in the air and scream, "Wee." But as far as anything that's on the horizon for me, I'm very excited to see how this project I worked on for David Slade, did 30 Days of Night and various other things, and directed me in the television show Crossbones with Malkovich for like 9 months in Puerto Rico, which was incredible. Anyway, he contacted me to shoot his short entry into an anthology, a horror anthology called Nightmare Cinema, which also features Joe Dante and it's as a director, and it's played a couple festivals. I still haven't seen it, but it's played a couple festivals out of Los Angeles, and we'll have a date some point, either the end or early next year, end of this or early next year, Nightmare Cinema, and it stars Mickey Rourke and several other well-known actors. I think Richard Chamberlain is one of the pieces, and I just shot a crazy indie for Kyle Hester, producer Kyle Hester. He's also an actor. He was in the chair with me, and he managed to talk Grady Earls into directing an original script called Preacher 6, in which Kyle is actually playing the title role. And I'm a sort of, how do you describe him? Sort of like a Dickensian character, like Charles Dickens' character, sort of a street nut who's a shyster and a little con man, and he does three-card Monte with these huge demonic angels. It's what I've seen so far looks incredibly cool. So again, that should open sometime next year. Looking forward to that. But it's an indie, so don't look for a wide release. It'll probably be on video on demand, I would imagine. A lot of the business is going straight to, downloadable stuff, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't matter as long as the check clears and I have a good time.
Yeah, everybody can check it out, and hopefully, because it seems like more independent films are coming out, but it seems it's such a real hassle just to get, just to get some kind of a release, even on even a local theater or a festival.
Well, it's outrageously expensive. I mean, when even the major studios are spending 40 at least % into marketing, probably more, for an independent filmmaker. They never can budget for that, so they're lucky to get by and shoot the film, let alone finish the film in post, let alone after that get any kind of distribution deal. Because the festival circuit, which used to be a really good inroad, from my understanding, independent filmmakers to find distributors who would pick up their film, pick it up and put it out there, and then take the marketing cost. Those are kind of dwindling now. They're not at all what they used to be. And so this is why, I assume, one of the reasons many producers and filmmakers have gone the route of downloadable VOD stuff. It's just simply easier to get there, is my understanding. Again, I'm just an actor. I mean, I do produce and direct, but my information is limited on that end of it. But from what I have viewed, this is what I see. You can't get like a standard four-wall distribution deal with, one of the majors unless you have a huge star or you have a lot of money behind it or any one of a million reasons. It has nothing to do with the quality of a piece ever. my takeaway from working in the business now for about 20 years. It's, talent is great, but it won't get you there. Talent will keep you there, but it certainly won't get you there. Branding, marketing, social presence, social internet presence, followers, those sorts of things now are coming into play far more than the actual ability to do the job. That's not being spoken from a cynical point of view. That's just simply being spoken from a matter-of-fact sort of logical point of view.
Do you think that even when it comes to acting point, do you think they're even using actors at a minimal because of, or unnecessary, like a crutch in their future acting? Because, again, it's all about the profit?
Well, any producer worth their salt is only thinking about the profit. So they can't be faulted for that. But I have lost several roles to a name I can't mention, who I see very often at auditions. Because in television especially, they would be able to use his name in a trailer. But he's notorious for being on set and a problem and costing them money because of delays and what have you. But still, he gets hired because of the one show he once did that got some recognition, and now the controversy surrounding him pretty much on the social network land. That is what it is. It's like, I get it. As a producer, I would say, okay, well, let's go with this guy instead because we'll get, 100,000 more views. But I guarantee you, I or any of my friends could outact this poor guy's, ass in any kind of act off. But, again, it's not a bitterness, it's not a cynicalness, it's an understanding of what the landscape of the business is and trying to find one's place within that, finding the crevices in the rock to grab hold and pull yourself up. And I get roles he won't get, so it is a trade-off. But one cannot be faulted for looking at the bottom line when they're spending tens to hundreds to millions, thousands of dollars in a project. It's just that's their job. If they weren't doing that, they wouldn't be doing their job. But then it's up to the director, the casting director, and anybody else with any kind of aesthetic influence to push for the level of artistic ability and try and get as much of that as they can out of the money pit that is making movies or television.
When you see a TV show and then, you can tell it's not going to be so great, do you think like the investors kind of seems like they intend to make it a flop just so they can find their actual talent to make a better show that they know they're going to make money off of?
It's an interesting theory, and it wouldn't surprise me, but honestly, nothing in the business does surprise me anymore. Absolutely nothing. But I hold firm to the thought that no matter who it is, regardless of their level of talent or lack thereof, would ever set out to make anything worse than it is. Now, what they will do is especially television, they will eliminate anything perhaps with an edge in terms of its humor, and I'm a very edgy actor, so I'll get this a lot. When you're on a set and you do one thing, or you say you booked a show, and then you go to the table read, and it reads one way. This table read is where you sit around and all the cast is there, all of the producers there, and more often than not, the network people are there. So if you have a joke that is perhaps, or not even a joke, but a line that is just on the edge of potentially offending someone or even just running the risk of that, it will be eliminated by the time you start shooting. And even if you shoot it, odds are it's going to get cut. As a result, again, they're watching their bottom line. They don't want a Twitter war over a particular line that was said on a particular show. So unfortunately, as a result, what happens is a sort of watering down of any kind of true character, any kind of real depth. And this is primarily network I'm talking about here, by the way, the majors. When it comes to the cable, the FXs, or the Hulus, obviously, or Netflix or any of those, they can call their own shots. But network television is dependent on people not being offended by anything they do. So my experience has been that they will tend to water down anything that's slightly edgy. Look what happened with Roseanne. That's a perfect example. They will water down anything that is potentially offensive or actually is offensive, as was the case with her tweet, to save their butts. Everybody in the business, by necessity, is looking to save their butts because there are hundreds of other people out to get their butts. So that you do have to be careful in Hollywood. You do have to be careful in the business because there are other people who want to replace you, especially on the executive end and administrative end, but also on the creative end. Less so with actors, but certainly true with directors and writers. It's a cutthroat business in a lot of ways, and so it's wise to hold on to your soul firmly with your right hand, but keep your left hand, on your hip for the gun, just in case, without being paranoid. It's not an easy game to play in Hollywood, and the wise participant is aware of all levels of communication within the industry.
When
when it comes to like script changes, especially like the last second when you're in that moment, when you're in that emotion, how do you reset that emotion in that moment scene when there's any kind of changes in that moment? How do you reset that?
Which it does quite often. Excuse me. Well, first of all, it's my job to do whatever they tell me to do. So whatever the words are, I must now then take those words and justify them within the emotion or the heightened stake that I was currently playing, and find a way into those words to justify why my character would say this thing in this particular way, you see. So that's my first priority, is to do it. I have no choice. I don't let myself have a choice. Now, unless you're a recurring guest star, or you have an arc on the show and you're doing several episodes, then you have more of a say. But as a visitor, really, to the set, I don't believe that it's my place to question what it is the writers who have been working on these shows for X number of seasons. I can't question what it is they're doing. I don't know my character better than they do. They know it. They created it, and I'm sort of a catalyst. I'm the what's that called? I'm channeling their world, and I appreciate that, and I like that, because I also direct and write and produce. I can see why they're making a change. So maybe it's a lot easier for me than it would be for a lot of actors. Some would look, but I've memorized these 5 words. I can't suddenly change it to these 5 words, which is why it's very, very important, especially in commercials when there's so much money involved. It's in error for producers to go with non-union actors, because non-union doesn't have anything to do with talent level or look. It has to do with the ability to deliver on the spot when you have 45 people breathing down your neck to do one particular thing right, and then change it to do it right. And the union actor knows they'll do that. They'll make that happen, and it's so fast it'll make your head spin. Non-union actors still aren't experienced enough to not panic, to not freak out. They don't have the well where they can pull up the resources required to actually behave in a professional way and deliver. So it ends up costing the commercial people money, but I think they haven't figured that out yet. They need to lose a lot of money so they'll come back to union work.
That, like, you think, like, when an actor, you can kind of tell this in as well as film, when sometimes, usually they're good at covering this, but, like, you can tell either some kind of stretch that isn't related to the character, like maybe they did have to repeat the same scene over and over just to get it right, and they have to go back to that one moment, that one line, to restart that emotion, to get that back in there again. And you can see it on some actors, but it can be a little treacherous at times.
Oh, it's incredibly treacherous, but I'd be very curious sometimes to sit with you and watch some scenes or what have you, and hear how you break them down, because it's interesting when I'm watching a film, for example, and I see a particular take, and I think, oh, I wonder if this happened here, I wonder if that happened here. Might be right, but odds are I'm probably not. It could be absolutely anything else. Sometimes what looks like a hesitant performance on the part of an actor is actually the result of bad editing. There's so many different dynamics that go into making visual art in film and television that it's very, very difficult to break down exactly what might have happened on set. Though everybody will have a theory and they could all be right. It's a sneaky little discipline. It's a very tricky discipline. My only thought when I'm watching something that's maybe not quite working is to allow the creators of whatever it is I'm watching the freedom to guide me through the rest of it, because I might just be wrong. So I don't want to get stuck on a particular performance or stuck on a particular camera angle, stuck on a particular line. I'll just kind of notch it, I'll have a little post-it note in my head, and then we'll move forward in the film. Sometimes it's blatantly obvious.
Yeah.
Interesting thing that I noticed the other day, actually. I was telling somebody last night on the carpet about this situation. I woke up and I was listening to radio, and they were advertising some show. I was asleep to the radio, and they were advertising some new television show that was coming on. And they had maybe 3 actors in the scene. Maybe 2, actually. I think it was just 2. And they would deliver the line just like this. And then the other actor would deliver the line just like this. And it was all very flat, and it was all almost monotone, but not quite. And there wasn't really any emotion behind it at all. And I was listening to that thinking, maybe that's what I've been doing wrong. Maybe I need to literally flatten everything down to the point of just nearly yawning, and that will work for network television. I really don't know. It's an interesting study, but it is something I noticed. So yeah, you can watch a film or television show and imagine, or logically conclude what went wrong with a particular piece or scene or performance, and possibly be right, but also give weight to the fact you might be wrong.
Because I've noticed a lot of these other actors, especially like newer films, like, let's act as fast as we possibly can. Like, especially in these action or even horror, like they speak it down, like, okay, let's go. No, it's like, I just missed what was that a scene? Was that a motion? What's going on? You don't even give us a chance to understand it.
Actually, there was some criticism around Fincher's, what was it called? Social Network? Facebook movie? Is that what it was called? You know the one I'm talking about.
That was like .com or something.
Fincher directed. David Fincher. The whole thing was like a machine gun. And I happen to love that. It's like, I think that's but it was a choice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's all choice-based, man. I mean, it's, like I said, there's so many things could go on in a scene and stuff like that. Like I said, the theories, everything like that. But I mean, like, it seems like more newer films. Now we're just doing like sagas of. Are we trying to confuse people now by making sagas from the original early sagas of the remakes, and we're just squeezing those in? I mean,
I don't think anybody's trying to confuse anybody. I think all they're trying to do is make some money.
They are.
They are. Anybody is trying.
But like the viewer is going to go be like, when they go see it, it's like, oh, did you see this movie? Oh, you mean the original? Oh no, you mean the remake? No, they just by squeezing into like all these other sagas and stuff into something, you're going to confuse the viewer, like, because they're going to talk about it, they know about it. And then they're like, oh, you mean the remake? Or you mean the prequel? You mean the original? Or are you talking about the new one that just came out with the same title?
Well, yeah, but the only reason they're doing the same title and using retreads, basically, is because they know that will pull X number of people into a theater, if only out of curiosity. You know, they only care if it's good or not because they want the second week to play, the third week to play, the fourth. Don't give people in the business too much credit here in terms of, well, I think we'll do this just to confuse them. You know, it's just, they don't think that far. They think no further than the bottom line, will this bring butts in seats? It's just that simple.
Regardless, even if they get negative reviews, no, we're going to make another one.
Yeah, well, you know, you can't really fault them. I mean, if people go, you know, it's not up to them. It's up to the movie-going public who decide what they're going to swallow and what they're not.
It's like if it's a trend or it's not a trend, or, you know, if you're nostalgic, guess what, we're going to go for this, and we're going to make that. We're going to have this person from here, and boom, there you go. There's a couple $1 million just for that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So without putting too cynical a light on it, yeah, that's probably very true. I mean, it's exactly the same in a way as let's saying, okay, well, let's put this YouTube star on a television show. Let's put it in the movie. Not that they've ever done anything like that before, but they have 1.2 million followers, so people will come. Doesn't matter if they end up having a career of it or not. The star, in that case, would be disposable. The studio or the producer or whoever is responsible for putting the money up and getting that person, that very inexperienced person, to appear on a television show or a film is the one that matters in that scenario, because they're the ones that know what they're doing and they're trying to make the money. And they're the ones who will stay in Hollywood. It's a tough business. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's so crazy, but hey, you know, there's always somebody. It's an endless chain. It's just going to keep going and going. There's no, you know, you can't do this type of deal anymore. Like, you know, the early television days where companies were actually switching other shows around, and then you're like, oh, it's not going to work, even though that show actually was popular within the first couple weeks, and then disappeared, and it came back and became a cult classic.
Right. Again, they don't really care about classics. What they'll care about is money. I'll be curious to see how the new Murphy Brown thing works. I've read some really mixed reviews, and I'm a fan of Candace Bergen. I think she's freaking great, and I mostly remember the original show. I haven't watched the new one, but I was reading something the other day that said this retread doesn't happen to be landing. It's not grabbing hold. I was like, well, maybe because it was of its time. And maybe, you know, it should not be Murphy Brown. Maybe it should be Candace Bergen as, you know, Murphy Brown or something. Just change the freaking... Do something new, yeah, rather than assuming that everybody wants to watch a show just for nostalgia. Do you watch South Park? Are you a South Park person?
I like it, but...
Ever watched
I do like it, but I don't...
Of episodes a couple seasons ago, I think, where they had at like a Whole Foods knockoff these little blue berries. They were little berries in a little box, and they were called the member berries. And so you would go near the berries, and then you would hear all the little berries talking, and they'd be saying things like, hey, remember when that Murphy Brown show was? Oh, I remember Murphy Brown. Oh, I remember this. I remember that. And it's like you get sucked into this weird nostalgia that is, especially in our current political times, really tempting to wallow in. And that's what the entire show was about. It was about avoiding the present and the future by looking at the past. And this is something that in middle age does occur. And I've seen many people I know sort of turn their heads away from what's going on to think back of, oh, New York in the 90s, oh, Los Angeles in the 70s. It's like, creepy territory there. I'd rather stay with my feet firmly planted in the present, preferably the future, so I can see what's coming, and I know where I am with the world that I'm actually in, not the one I wish I was in. But that's kind of what all these retreads are about, that and making money. We will suck off the desperate nostalgia for middle-aged people and a once proven property, to try and get what few bucks we can get out of it. I mean, it's vampirism in a lot of ways.
Yeah, just like all these franchises.
Good writers to come up with something new that's risky, which they will then possibly lose sponsors over. So I get it. It's a trap for all of them. I'm cynical. I'm sounding really cynical today. I was in a great mood before you called. I think I mentioned the Shriek Fest carpet thing last night. There was a festival here in town for horror films, features, and shorts. And I was asked to go to the opening walk. So I went, and I thought, there'll be free food and booze. So it was a long, long carpet walk. I was like, this is taking a long time. And I kept asking each person that I would see next who would interview. I said, where's the bar? Where's the bar? Are we near the bar? Where's the bar? I wouldn't get near a bar. Turned out it was a cash bar.
Yeah, I was there, too, because I had the vacuum cleaner, and I was going down as you walk behind,
Is that what you were doing? I wonder who that was. Let's get off the topic of the darkness of Hollywood. Let's get into some more of the positives of working in the film and television industry, if that's possible.
Good weather?
You know what's funny about L.A.? I'm originally from Indiana, and I spent many years in New York City. So I grew up knowing how to dress for and knowing how not to dress for the various seasons. Spring comes, oh la la, life, now we can have sex again. Summer comes, oh, let's work on our tan. Now it's really... Fall comes, oh, it's starting to come, let's grab a scarf. And then winter comes, you're probably going to die. But we'll get through it and get to spring. So each of those quarters of the year really mark the passage of time, very specifically. You're aware that, that was 2 years ago, because I remember the winter before last, we had that huge, huge snowstorm, and we couldn't get to the theater, and blah, 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 blah. Whereas in Los Angeles, every day is exactly the same. Pretty much the only difference I can see is a slight difference in temperature, like 15, 20 degrees. And then in winter, the air is really, really, really clear, so you can see the mountains a lot clearer, and you see snow on the top of it. But as a result, I was talking to one of my new managers earlier yesterday about this, and she's a Chicago gal. And we were talking about it. I said, she has now been here 5 years, and she says, it feels like 2 weeks, because it's very difficult to mark time in Los Angeles due to the exact same weather every single day. And then you don't notice it. It's very subliminal. Next thing you know, you turn around and you've got a 10-year-old child following you, calling you daddy. It's like, well, I thought you were just born. That is a positive. The weather's great. Do something deeper than that, though. I mean, about the industry itself. Give me what you got.
How about how many transvestites are acting these days?
Funny you should say that. Really funny you should say that. In fact, there is quite an influx, and I'm pretty happy to say that, because a great number of my friends are not only trans, but certainly do drag.
Oh, nice. Hey, at least they got a job in the industry. That's pretty cool.
My friends don't, so it's a nice thing.
That's probably because I found out your other friends were transvestites.
Mine, Alexandra Billings, is currently on Broadway. She just opened last week in a new show called The Nap. Alexandra was on Transparent as a recurring guest star, or maybe a regular. I'm not sure what her contract was on that. She's a brilliant actress, and she's been working for years, and now she's on Broadway, and I'm thrilled to death. And what's even funnier about that is the woman who's understudying her in her transgender role in this Broadway play called The Nap. The understudy for that is my former roommate in New York City. So this is how small of a world we actually live in. There's not only Alexandra Billings, a buddy of mine, playing a transgender role as a transgender woman on Broadway, but my former roommate, who's also transgender, Bianca Lee, is now understudying her. So yes, there is a lot more work for transgender, and maybe drag, but that's a totally different world. And I guess I won't say LGBT, but more queer, sort of alienated subcultures are making their inroads into everything but network television, and I think that's great.
That is great. I mean, include everybody in this, because you never know. You could always have that big hitter right there and just blow you away.
Well, plus their perspectives. I mean, there are perspectives that nobody can understand unless they've gone through them. See them on their television, and so they They get hypnotized by a new perspective in a very real way. Now, Gray was kind of watered down, but that's better than nothing. I mean, thinking back to, I don't know, what's a good example? Certainly going back further than I was planning on going, I probably shouldn't mention the name, but it is still true, Bill Cosby, in terms of his show and the advances it made with white America, in terms, oh my God, I didn't know black men could be a doctor, you know, that kind of bullshit, to more recently, what was I going to use as an example? Oh, Will and Grace is a good example of that. How it made it safe for, I guess, what could be viewed as standardized, normal, and I use that word very sparingly, America, to take a peek into the view of what a really watered down and generic gay lifestyle might be like. But again, that's still a step forward.
Yeah, it's really cool because they're expanding.
By any chance, did you catch the film Tangerine?
Not recently, no.
Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. First film ever shot completely on an iPhone.
Really?
Absolutely great. It's about transgender hookers in Hollywood.
Oh.
It's an incredible film. I highly recommend you catch it. And the fact that film even got made, played at festivals, and was picked up and distributed for regular theatrical viewings was great. You know, all voices need to be welcome in this industry. All of them far more than the standard straight white male perspective. It's boring.
Yeah, you can't just do the whole, different skin color or different gender, playing a main role in a TV show. It's like you need to just be open to it and see where it goes, man.
Of course. And also see if anybody's going to buy it, which is the bottom line in Hollywood. Has nothing to do with morals, has nothing to do with even politics. It has to do with money. If a piece is going to make money, they don't care who the hell's playing it. They really, really don't. But the marginalized groups have to do their own shit to prove that it will make money. I mean, if nothing else, then most recently, which I still haven't seen, and I plan to see this week with my editor, Crazy Rich Asians has just made that point. The same point they made over 20 years ago with another fully Asian film that rocked the box office and caused zero change in the industry. Now, maybe this one will have a stronger effect because it's taken the world by storm in terms of, oh, look, an entirely Asian cast, from what I understand, entirely Asian cast, has brought in buku bucks. So we should, by logical conclusion, see far more. And it's the non-marginalized viewer's job to watch it and to learn something and to accept it into their reality. And that's what was so great about America, and what we can present to the world that the rest of the world really kind of can't. We can present all of these different points of view as being specifically American and free and valid and welcomed and valued. You know, it's a hard lesson for dying America to learn that it isn't just about, any more old, straight, white men perspective. It's just simply not. You know, as Trump said just the other day, apparently, I can't listen to the man speak, but apparently he had said something about, it's a very scary time for men. Well, damn right it is. It fucking should be. But if you're actually paying attention, and you're actually involved, and you're actually, to some degree, using the word I hate, woke, then it's not scary any more than regular change is scary. There is a place. You give up some of the pie. You don't give up the whole freaking pie. It makes me kind of angry. Again, we're going dark with this interview. This is terrible.
You're becoming negative, sir.
For my brand.
I'm not making any money off of this.
Did any of this rant even land? Did it make any sense at all? Or should I just hang up the phone and
Guys,
go play with my cat?
Those who's going to listen to this, please leave a comment and tell me what he did wrong.
I don't like that idea. Balls in the cage. Balls in the cage.
Balls in the cage. See you at the raffle, guys.
I think I want, if it's all the same to you, I would like this episode, if you title them, to be called Ezra Buzzington's Balls Are in a Cage. Could you do that for me?
I will, just for you. Just for you.
I appreciate that. I really, really do.
Definitely, man. So, okay, go ahead and plug in anything that you're currently working on, and please go ahead and mention your friend about the Broadway play and all that other stuff.
My film Mohawk, which was directed by Ted Gagan and produced by Snowfort, he did, and they did, something called People Under the Stairs, which had a huge following. It was Ted's first film.
Nice.
He's a brilliant director. And this film, Mohawk, is also brilliant. We shot it in Syracuse 2 summers ago, I think. Excuse me. And it's an origin story about a mythological Mohawk visionary creature, a revenge creature, wonderful, called the Deer Monster. And I play a really nasty piece of work who is going after three what I view to be terrorist Native Americans, two Mohawk and one British, during the 1812 War of 1812. And it's a psychological terror ride. It's absolutely wonderful. We get stuck in the woods and we get frightened, and sort of deliverance meets, I don't know, something scarier. But anyway, that was just this last week, certified fresh. And I don't know if you know what that means on Rotten Tomatoes, but it means that I think all of the reviews, there have to be at least 40 reviews that have covered the film, and they're all above 80%. Meaning they're positive. And so it's like, Entombed in History, forever and ever, as certified fresh from Mohawk, and I highly recommend listeners go watch that film, not just for my performance, which is, pretty darn good, but absolutely everything about the film is freaking great. And the last film I shot, which was earlier this summer, called Preacher 6, as I mentioned, I think, to you earlier, will get distribution at some point next year. You can find that on all of the social sites. Just Google Preacher 6, and you'll find it. David Slade's Nightmare Cinema, which is a short film called This Way to Egress, which David asked me to appear in, which I did happily, is part of an anthology horror series called Nightmare Cinema that also features Joe Dante, and Mickey Rourke is in it, Richard Chamberlain. Have I said this already?
You did, but they need to know.
Anyway, that'll come out next year.
They need to know.
So Nightmare Cinema, so do that. And the other weird thing, a film I shot quite a while ago called Dug Up, which I thought was dead and buried. It's a funny zombie comedy. It's very funny. What pieces I've seen is, as of October 9th, now available on iTunes, Amazon Video, Google Play, all of those things that you have to do those things that you have to do. There are other things that are in the pipeline that I'm not allowed to talk about right now because they're kind of sort of big, and I don't want to A, jinx it, and B, my manager would kick my ass, so I can't say anything about those. But there's a lot to see Ezra Buzzington soon, knocking wood, and he would love for you to come and look at his sorry ass trying to make a living in an entertainment industry. And also in Art School Confidential by Terry Zwigoff, also starring John Malkovich, interestingly enough. And I play a nude model in that, so I come out, everything swinging to the wind, whop, whop, whop. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, you can be in my film. It's called Funnel Fury.
Is that right? Is it something I can look up and find and hold to my heart, near and dear?
Well, you can. I mean, I can include you in the credit without you knowing. Yeah, he's in it.
Let's do that, then. That's probably safer.
I mean, I got selfie photos. Come on. Anyway, there you have it, everybody. That is actor Ezra Buzzington, who is everywhere at this point and will be everywhere in the future.
Let me correct one thing. It's actor and asshole, Ezra Buzzington.
Well, that's his middle name, but, abbreviate.
Mike, this has been great. You're funny, man. I wish I could understand you a lot better.
Well, thank you for pretending to listen. It warms my heart.
I was certainly trying. I've got my ears scrunched up to the phone saying, what the... Get a better mic. That's all I'm telling you.
Oh, that is so cold.
Did that hurt? I'm sorry.
Make a donation.
Yeah, that's what you got to ask your people. It's like, hey, make a donation in my name.
Guys, leave a message and tell him to have him make a donation because I've been doing this for like 10 years and I'm broke as you know.
I hear that loud and freaking clear. I don't even want to talk about my 1990 Toyota Corolla that needs new brakes. So just sing me your sad damn song. Really nice to get to know absolutely everybody except maybe a couple of you.
But don't cry.
Take it easy, buddy.